On this week's edition of the Stony Brook News, the midterm election surpasses 100 million votes for the first time.
We take a look at how the Marcelo Lucero murder continues to change Long Island communities 10 years later.
And how students are questioning the safety of their schools.
All that and more on this week's edition of the Stony Brook News.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of the Stony Brook News. I'm Luis Ruiz.
And I'm Tristan Manaloto.
A shooting in Thousand Oaks, California near several universities last week claimed the lives of college students whose only difference from us was the coast they live on. The fear of shootings has remained in the nation in recent years. Dorothy Mai investigates how Americans are handling the dangers.
Imagine having to live in fear for the rest of your life no matter where you went. Since the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012, the number of mass shootings in the country have skyrocketed to unbelievable numbers. Not only in schools, but there have been reports of shootings in movie theaters, nightclubs, concerts, and most recently, even synagogues and country bars.
There's no words to describe it because I even fear, if I go into the movie theater, let me check where the exits are. Go to a frat party. Let me check, no one should think like that. You want to go out and have fun.
This may bring worries to Stony Brook students as the university is open to the public, meaning anyone can come onto the campus at any time. However, university police do their best to keep the campus safe.
With the population that we have a very, very, very safe campus.
The police department has been working diligently to make sure they are prepared in an event of an active shooter on campus and train students on what to do in that scenario. Their advice: run, hide, and fight.
Teaching the run, hide, fight moniker, which is sort of the standard, I call it the contemporary version of stop, drop, and roll. The quick things to remember in case of a fire. That's what we grew up on. Quick things to remember in case of, God forbid, an active shooter, active assailant, is the run, hide, and fight.
Run. Remove yourself from the area. Hide. If you can't get away from the area, shelter and isolate yourself from the shooter. Fight. As a last resort, defend yourself if in contact with the shooter.
I do feel pretty safe at this school. There are blue light system that my other school did not have. So I think that's very important.
However, even if the school is safe, what happens when you walk off the campus?
Our age group, we can't live our lives as much as older generations could have because we have to live in fear. I live in fear.
In December, it will be 6 years since the shooting here at Sandy Hook Elementary School, which renewed the debate of gun control in the United States. Since then, all schools throughout the nation are required to have some sort of active shooter drill or training. According to the new Democrats in the House, they plan to pursue an aggressive gun control legislation come January. For Stony Brook News, I'm Dorothy Mai.
10 years ago, a group of 7 teenagers from Patchogue murdered Ecuadorian immigrant Marcelo Lucero. Our reporter, Eliza Cosme, shows us how this hate crime continues to affect Long Island communities.
When Ecuadorian immigrant Marcelo Lucero was murdered in Patchogue, it sparked a conversation across Long Island about local attitudes towards immigrants. And that conversation hasn't stopped.
That's my brother's story, my brother's death. We're talking about somebody, it was a human being, it was killed because he was different. That story, I think everybody is related to that.
A vigil was held in the Student Activity Center on Wednesday to remember Lucero a decade after his death. The 200 attendees watched the documentary Deputized that tells the story of the political and social context surrounding the murder.
I'm not familiar with anything that has to do with Long Island, so the fact that this was something that happened, and it specifically happened to a Hispanic man, I identify as a Hispanic woman, as a Dominican, it was something that moved me and it triggered me and it made me want to come and learn more about it.
Following Lucero's death, civil rights advocates put pressure on the Suffolk County Police Department and local politicians who they say failed to address the concerns of the Hispanic immigrant community. 10 years ago, Suffolk County PD had 195 sworn members of Hispanic descent. Today, there are 256. The total number of hate crimes on Long Island has decreased since Lucero's death, but some do not feel that's enough.
The day after Marcelo Lucero died, I went down to the spot where he was stabbed, and I saw the blood still on the road, and I thought, this can never happen again. Never happen again on Long Island. And you know what? It hasn't happened again on Long Island but it's happening all around the country.
Jews will not replace us! Jews!
Hate crimes in the largest cities across the country have reached the highest levels in over a decade, according to a study by California State University. Some are not surprised by the rise in hate.
You know, with all the racism coming up again, I wasn't surprised. I was saying, like, why is everyone saying, oh, racism is coming back? I was saying this was always here.
Lucelo's brother Josuelo hopes his brother's story can continue to inspire others to end this hateful rhetoric.
You can be an Afro-American, you can be Asian, you can be a Muslim. You know, it's all types of groups. And all these groups then being targeted, it's exactly the rhetoric you see now. That's the problem. And that's my story, the story of my brother.
This is the spot that Marcelo Lucero was attacked 10 years ago. The flowers at his memorial are a sign that the Patchogue community hasn't forgotten Lucero's death or the impact it's had on Long Island. For Stony Brook News, I'm Eliza Cosme.
Yesterday marked the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. Also known as the Great War, it was one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. 32 nations fought, causing over 16 million deaths and as many as 60 million casualties over 4 years.
Many world leaders spent the weekend commemorating what was called the War to End All Wars, with President Donald J. Trump visiting France for the occasion. However, the president has taken harsh criticism for canceling a trip to an American military cemetery at Bella Wood. White House aides claim poor weather grounded Marine One. Bella Wood had been the biggest U.S. battle since the Civil War, and the cemetery is just 50 miles outside of Paris. President Trump sent Chief of Staff John F. Kelly to attend the ceremony in his place. Thankfully, clear skies made sure none of our ceremonies got canceled this weekend.
Let's ask our meteorologist Darlene to tell what the rest of the week will look like. Darlene?
Thanks, Tristan. You won't need your umbrella today, but you will need that coat. We're at a temperature of 43 degrees right now. If we take a look at our hour by hour, we'll see that temps will rise to about 51 this afternoon and then drop back down to 45. Tomorrow we're going to have a temperature of 60 degrees, but it is going to come with some rain, so make sure you grab your umbrella tomorrow. Looking at Wednesday, we're going to have a high of 42 and a low of 27. Yes, 27. That's below freezing, so make sure you have your hats, mittens, coats, everything you need to stay warm. Towards the end of the week, we're going to have some rain, but it's going to clear out by Friday evening. Looking at this weekend, it's going to be gorgeous. The sun's going to be out, so make sure you enjoy it. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Darlene. More Americans went to the polls last week than ever before in a midterm election. While Republicans retained the Senate, the House of Representatives has slipped to Democrats, and with it, the authority to investigate President Trump. Stephanie Vienco spoke with students and voters about their experience with democracy.
The leaves may have fallen from these bare trees, but the voter turnout in the 2018 midterm election had surely risen. About 114 million votes were cast on Tuesday, although some students at Stony Brook didn't get a chance to vote.
You should really look into people when you vote for them, and I just didn't have the time to do that, and I'm not the type of person that's going to vote when I'm not educated enough on the subject.
This year, Stony Brook University committed to the All-In Challenge, a nationwide awards program that recognizes colleges and universities that have the most student voters turnout. Out of more than 10,000 residents, a total of 1,769 votes were cast at on-campus polling stations. It's still an increase of more than 300% compared to the 2014 midterm elections.
Generally, the information we have from Tuesday is about how young people voted. So it looks like everyone voted to a high degree. People who are better educated are more likely to turn out to vote.
That autumn night also became a night of firsts. Men and women broke down barriers to diversify Congress, and among them were the first Muslim women elected into Congress, the first openly gay man elected as governor, and the first proud lesbian congresswoman in Kansas.
Just to see a hijabi actually go on, me being a hijabi and growing up not seeing anyone ever in law, that was like, I cried a little. I was like, wow.
I think everyone believes that people will bring different considerations and experiences to the legislative process. So in other words, when some legislation is being written about healthcare and access to healthcare, or about student loans, or any one of these issues, having a more diverse group of people will mean that there are more voices.
People matter. That words matter.
Pew Research Center reveals that the 115th Congress will be the most diverse in history. For Stony Brook News, I'm Stephanie Uvienko.
While the general outcome of the election has been determined, there are several places where the race is still on. And bringing back memories of Bush versus Gore is Florida. Under Florida law, any election with less than 0.5% difference is subject to recount. Currently, the difference in the Florida race for governor is 0.4% and just 0.2% in the race for senator.
I hear the basketball team's off to a great start. Did you watch the game?
I did actually. I also heard that the football team is doing well this championship season. Let's turn it over to our sports reporter, Ganeet Singh, for more details. Ganeet?
Thanks, Tristan. Seawolves football fans will probably have to wait until next fall to see a game at Laval Stadium. The Stony Brook football team had its last regular home game of the season this past weekend. The Seawolves won 17-3 against the Delaware Blue Hens. This was some sweet revenge for the Seawolves because just a year ago, the Blue Hens ruined the Seawolves' chance of a conference title. Alex Lukanski kicked a 26-yard field goal during the first half, which gave Stony Brook a 3-0 lead. Senior quarterback Joe Carbone had 178 passing yards with a touchdown. Donald Leontine ran 33 yards up the middle for a touchdown with 5 minutes and 27 seconds left in the fourth quarter of the game. The men's basketball team also had a winning weekend. The Seawolves won 83-81 over the South Carolina Gamecocks. This is the first time the men's basketball team has beat a Southeast Conference team ever. The Seawolves were led by Akwazi Yeboah, who scored 24 points and had 11 rebounds for the first double-double of the campaign. Stony Brook has won its first 2 games of the regular season for the first time since 2013 and 2014. The Stony Brook women's basketball team also played its season opener on Friday against Rutgers University, but lost 61-47. The Seawolves did outscore Rutgers during the final quarter of the game with 31-30. 7 different Seawolves were able to crack the scoring column on Friday. The first home game of the season is tomorrow evening against Hofstra University. That's all we have for sports this week. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Ganeet. As the weather gets colder outside, it's important to take care of our furry friends. Kaylin Martin visited a house where any critter can find safety.
It can be hard to remember that not all news is bad news. This reporter takes you to a Long Island home brimming with life. It's got cats, dogs, and chickens.
That's part of our life. You kidding? Birds squawking and really cats meowing for no apparent reason. Chickens squawking. We have 2 puppies now. We lost one, but we just put in an application for a rescue, which we see if we can get. So 3 Karen Terriers, 3 cats. Mongo, who's now 37. He's 37 and going strong. 9 chickens, but we're already planning on the additions just to, because we like the rainbow eggs. So we want brown speckled, so we'll get 4 more. And we breed koi. It's a little scary, I think, when people come in here and you're like kind of surrounded. I always wanted chickens, and my husband is the no guy, and I just I've always wanted to do that. So I kept saying I was going to get chickens, and my husband's line was, it would like be a cold day in hell that we will ever get chickens. We actually built this beautiful house for them so that we can. Oh my God, they're wonderful. It's like your kids or your dog. They have like little nuances, you know. This one has like a beak that's just a little, but they really have personalities. Like my new favorite one is Nebby. There was a whole group that we named after Guardians of the Galaxy, so she's Nebby. She's like, you sit down and she wants to sit on your lap. She's, she'd come in the house, I think, if we'd let her, but I draw the line there, even though, one day we'll see. We'll probably see a chicken running around. Everyone's a rescue but Mac. And this little guy was running down the middle of the street and someone grabbed him and knew we had these kind of dogs. And we took him and he had dreadlocks and he wouldn't eat dog food. I guess he was locked in a room for like the first 2 years of his life. We took him and, we treated him like, like a kid with special needs. We put weighted jackets on him and compression jackets and walked him, and look at him now. He's probably the most grateful animal I've ever met in my life. We can't say no to people, kids, animals. It's a good thing.
That's all we have for this week's edition of the Stony Brook News. Thanks for watching. I'm Luis Ruiz.
And I'm Tristan Manaloto. Have a great day, Seawolves.